when the Red Sox made it to the World Series, a spate of news reports appeared linking the team's success to Boston's recovery from the Boston Marathon bombings. But a Boston Globe story on that topic was over the top, especially since there was no mention of the sale of the paper to Sox owner John Henry. Anna Marley has more.
A win for the Red Sox is a win for a city still grappling with trauma.
3-0 Boston.
That was the gist of this front-page Boston Globe story, which said that by making the World Series, the Sox helped heal Boston's wounds from the marathon bombings. Boston needed the Red Sox a bit more than usual this year, reporter David Filipov wrote, touting the team's unbridled, genuine enthusiasm and uncanny ability to grind out wins against the odds. Now, in fairness, the Red Sox have felt Boston's pain.
This is our city.
And the Globe isn't the only media outlet suggesting the Sox's success has been therapeutic.
6 months after the bombing, Boston Strong's have been the mantra.
And this season, the Red Sox, they were more than just a welcome diversion.
But most other coverage has been more restrained. Here's National Public Radio's Tovia Smith.
We might as well just stipulate from the get-go that no group of guys playing ball on a field could ever compensate for the lives or limbs lost at the Boston Marathon. Of course not.
What's more, the Globe story ran one day before Sox owner John Henry completed his purchase of the paper, creating a hefty conflict of interest. Since glowing coverage could boost Henry's bottom line, that raises the question, how will the Globe handle the fact that its new owner also owns the Sox? Editor Brian McGrory tells Beat the Press, we're going to do it the same way we have over the last 3 months. We're not going to sit around and discuss it on every story because only bad things can happen when you do that. And McGrory adds, he's mystified by our questions.
All right, Adam, I believe Brian McGrory. I don't think there's going to be a bleed over or concern about ownership when they're covering the Red Sox. What really disturbed me about that one big team thing was this sort of witchcraft approach to it. You know, there was a voodooism, sort of like Halloween has taken over. You know, this spiritual, you know, we're all in this together, we're one big team and we're healing together. I mean, and what happens if they lose? Is that, you know, is the spirit broken? So it's sort of that blurring, that, you know, willing suspension of disbelief that there's this greater thing happening here.
I think there is a story there, which is one reason you saw so many media outlets cover it. But I feel like the Red Sox, now that, pardon me, the Globe, now that they're owned by the same guy who owns the Red Sox, has an extra obligation to make sure that stories like this are done with maximum detachment and maximum rigor. David Filipov is a really good reporter. I don't think he tried to write a puff piece to kiss up to John Henry, but I didn't think that this story was as analytical or showed the detachment that it could have. One other point I want to make, Brian McGrory pointed out to me that in covering, for example, the controversy over the Red Sox continued use of Yawkey Way, they're getting a great deal from the city again, that in those stories the Globe has covered that topic and also included a disclaimer saying that John Henry at that point was poised to become owner of the Globe. So essentially he's saying, we'll give the disclaimer in business stories, but not every time we run a story. But I think that this story, in a way, is a business story, because when you say Boston and the Red Sox are one big team, that helps John Henry.
Well, let me stipulate up front that I really don't like equating athletic success with what happened with the marathon, and I'm really tired of that. However, that said, was this particular story over the top? I don't know. It seemed to me that it was pretty much characteristic of other stories I've seen on the whole idea that the Red Sox success has been a bomb after this, a bomb, I should say.
B-A-L-M.
B-A-L-M. See, I'm too much of a Bostonian. After this terrible tragedy this spring. I think what I find most interesting about this, frankly, is the fact that we're talking about it, and it shows the pressures and tensions that the Globe is going to be under. Rather than bending over to say nice things about the Red Sox and nice things about John Henry, I actually think that the biggest challenge for the Globe is going to be to go ahead and do stories like this and to take the criticism that comes with it rather than say, no, John Henry's our owner, we should only do negative stories.
Let's look at the tradition of this for a minute. I mean, you look back at the New Orleans Saints and the Super Bowl after Katrina. You look back at the Yankees and the World Championship after 9/11. There's this. Well, they lost the World Championship, but you know, why would you remember that?
I just do.
But the tie-ins that come in with the community and the sports teams is obviously nothing new, and I didn't have any negative feelings about that story at all. Not even that it was over the top, frankly. Because it seemed like such a natural connection because of what had happened with the Sox playing at that time and David Ortiz and, the Boston Strong having the B symbol from the hat. It all seemed to me to work. I did have a negative reaction to the sidebar on the front page, if you remember that, which was about Sweet Caroline.
Separate story
right underneath. And it was keyed to the special section on the World Series. Now, it's a small thing. Everyone has a different opinion about how you can play those things. But I didn't think that belonged on the front page. I thought that kind of overdid the whole point. It belonged on the other section. But every editor has a different view.
Yeah, I certainly don't begrudge anybody their skepticism about this, and the Globe does need to be careful going forward about disclosing, when to disclose, and so forth. But I'm a little compromised on this because I happen to be at that first home game after the bombings. And it was an amazing, cathartic experience. It was a wonderful experience. Throughout the year, the Red Sox did a great job of featuring first responders, victims, their families on a regular basis. They certainly didn't need to do that to fill the ballpark this year, so I can't ascribe that kind of motive to it. And I do believe, as Roy points out, that there are situations where the success of a sports team can lift the spirits of a community, and Lord knows we needed it. So you add all that up, I think there was a foundation for that story that justifies it, but yes, I think they will be careful. I think Brian McGrory gets it and the other editors there, but we'll just have to take it. People will be watching closely, as you point out, as well they should.